Hello and welcome. I'm going to quickly do the 30-second intro video because I am by myself and that will give me a minute. It's not even 30 seconds. Yeah, we'll do 30 seconds. I'm just going to say that I'm going live and then we'll get right into it. Welcome back, everybody, to the Morning Skate Podcast. Just me tonight as I rep, of course, the USA. We gear up for tomorrow, the big day. I'm sure everyone's excited, whether you're rooting for Canada or the US. That's going to be a ton of fun. I cannot wait for tomorrow night's game. The tournament's been awesome. Me and Matt will talk more about it when we do our normal stuff. I don't know if we're going to do a Saturday stream or not, but regardless, we are definitely going to be going over the Four Nations face-off together. I have just glowing, great things to say. Matt is already being negative, being like, oh, well, it's not the greatest hockey and players got hurt and blah, blah, blah. And he can take it up with my butt as that's the only one that gives a shit because this tournament rocks. I've had a ton of fun, but we're not here to talk about that today. We're here to talk about the underdog playoff best ball contest. You know what, instead of just having my doofy giant head with the green screen looking like absolute garbage. Oh, there's a little Zamboni and a big Zamboni. Did that just come out today? I swear I'm stupid. I never saw this. I talked to Matt today. Yeah, it just came out. Wow, there's a big Zamboni. Breaking news live. Let me just present my screen and not show what I'm talking about as we go. Yeah, so we have I don't like this screen. There's a better one. There we go. 3 contests. Little Zamboni, the Zamboni, the big Zamboni, all this stuff. You're gonna see me max all of them. We're just gonna do regular Zamboni draft today. Just gonna go through a couple things, really quickly, and then I'm gonna go over my 5 hypotheses, not hypothesis, and not hypotenuse. Just to get maybe a little background, get things started. Matt is crunching a bunch of data, getting a ton of stuff together to do more streams later. So we're going to test these hypotheses with actual numbers, and then we're going to look at how the results from last year and previous years bear out against them. The contest is 10K to first, a little bit disappointing, but what are we going to do? The contest didn't fill last year. It got to like 92%. I would love to see 20K. I'd love to see 25K. It's a little more spread out, I believe. The entrants are still pretty high, so it's a bit more spread out. I think Underdog's gone to that just more so than anything else. You know what? Try one more camera. I'm going to move myself up there. A little more spread out, a little bit, a few more ways to like make a little bit of money if you do well. If you make it past the first round, second round, you're kind of starting to get to a good spot. So the biggest change is the fact that it is 1 center, 1 wing, 1 defenseman, 1 goalie, 2 flex, comparatively to the regular season contest where wingers get it kind of an additional boost because you can always have 2 wingers scoring at least, and they could always go into the flex. This spreads it a lot more, meaning that centers get, I guess, maybe a boost against the norm. I'm not saying that means you have to be drafting with a mentality of like this many roster spots, this many roster spots, this many roster spots. But you could be a lot less stringent or strict, on where you're allocating your draft capital per position. And certainly, I think a lot of centers will go early because a lot of the best players will be centers. But let's just go a little bit deeper into a couple of things. Oh my God, I always do this. Boop. I want to share the entire screen. Okay. So I'm not going to go over, obviously, all of this. If you want to read the rules, go right ahead. But if essentially round 1 is your 6-person draft, you have to get out of that. Then you go to 8, then 5, and then a 93-team final. Not that difficult to advance through comparatively to many other sports. It's means that you can probably have more failures as long as you can hit on a couple pieces and continue to advance against weaker pods. After every round, much like any other playoff format, teams will have dead players, especially dead players of teams that went to game sevens. And there's easier paths to maybe being a bit more unique and moving forward. So I do think that's something to note, that like one strategy that like you can get away with a lot more kind of craziness in the playoffs. And I truly think we're miles and miles behind knowing what is the best strategy. I'm going to go over a couple of things with my hypothesis that I think are going to end up becoming maybe more of the meta, or what I believe should be more of the meta that aren't right now. Again, we already went to roster makeup. I went over a little bit. So again, if you make the final, you're getting $100 per final team you make. I think that's pretty solid. Like last year, I do not believe you 10x on making the finals at all. I had a couple teams make the finals, but just nothing that was all that live. I think I had 3, and just nothing that was a complete roster. I'll go over a little bit of last year and a little bit of the year before, just so we can kind of get our mindset correctly, I think, with when, like, what was correct or what worked or what didn't work, and why things didn't work 2 years ago and kind of worked last year. Just kind of break it down just a little bit, and then hypothesis, and then I'll do a draft. I'm not going to go over everything. I think you understand. If you've never drafted a team, you don't have to set your roster at all. You can draft 150 teams, and your best roster will automatically score your best center, best winger, best defenseman, goalie, 2 flex, and then you'll have 6 on the bench. So that leads to a lot of interesting decisions, a lot of things that I'm going to be trying this year that maybe I didn't last year, mistakes that I know I made, mistakes that I feel like many people are making, etc. Let's just look at the 2024 Stanley Cup playoff bracket. We're just going to look at the past 2 years bracket just so we can kind of see. Hopefully it's just an easy click to the results. Of course not, because the NHL is a dumpster fire. Okay, well, I guess we're going to go back 2 years first. So we're going to go back 2 years first. We're going to go back to the year that I had, I had a better sweat in 2023. I believe, I could double check this, but I think I had 3 teams or 4 teams in the finals. Nothing that came that close. All of my good teams were Panthers onslaughts. None of them had Vegas. Now, you might think that was clearly a mistake you made because you had a lot of Panthers, but Vegas was great. So but if you think back to 2 years ago, having any team with Panthers was going to make you probably move forward. Most drafts, there was maybe 1 to 2 Panthers getting drafted at all. They were the last team in. They barely squeaked in over the Buffalo Sabres, and they had to play the Boston Bruins coming off of the most dominant regular season in NHL history. So the Panthers were this very unlikely story that made it to the Cup final. So I drafted, I believe out of my 150, I had about 8 Panthers teams, and 4 of them made the finals. It was, if I remember, maybe it was 3. It was something in that range of 8-3, 8-4. Very unique onslaught type teams, but not enough. And none of them had anything more than 1 Vegas player. And those teams didn't have a goalie. Now you might think back again even further to what I'm getting at here. Why did that team not have a goalie? Well, Vegas ended up with Aiden Hill in net, which was not expected. They had Logan Thompson, they had Bressois, and they had Aiden Hill. Aiden Hill did not seem like he was going to be the goalie that could win the Stanley Cup. He didn't seem like the starter at the time, really. It was pretty ambiguous. As we got closer to the playoffs, we kind of started to see that it could be Aiden Hill, but it didn't seem like it was that early on in the process, which is going to get into some other points. But this was a very weird, very unexpected. Colorado, the donkey chalk of the West, loses in the first round. Really, the only favorite that won was Vegas, and the Oilers. Vegas was popular, but not many teams had Vegas in Florida. There was just a few teams that just skated right to the top of the leaderboards that had both of them in the finals. It was basically it's a 3-man race for first place because there's 3 teams that can fill out a roster in like I think it was like a 50 or 60 person final. Not chalky at all. Like the opposite of chalky. The anticipants of holy crap, anything can happen. And then last year, we move ahead. God, can I just look at a bracket from last year? Like, is this has to be difficult? Like, how is the NHL? Is this just going to show it to me? Can you just show me what last year was? Yes, it can. Okay. So last year, make this a little smaller because we can't see it at all. Last year, on the other hand, the number one team out of one division played the number two team in Edmonton, albeit, but a very heavy favorite to make it to the Cup Finals. Like, it was a three-horse race, it felt like, between Colorado, Dallas, and Edmonton. At least that's how the public perceived it. And like a 2-3-horse race on the other side. And when you got to the conference finals, 4 of those horses were still around of the 6 that felt like there was even a chance. 2 of the most popular teams to draft made it to the finals. It was more interesting, I guess, because there were so many good teams. But, in reality, it was a kind of a pretty big flip-flop. We went from a very crazy, just no one expected situation to kind of the chalk getting pretty much clean through. I really can't even think of the first round. There really wasn't an upset. Like, I can't think of one. You could argue that, like, oh, well, this team could have won. And it's like, yeah, but nothing that was crazy. Like, none of these were anything more than like, yeah, that is about what we expected. Round 2, hard to say that there was anything that was that surprising. And then round 3, just the chalk all the way through, right? So 2 completely different scenarios. Now, what happened last year, if you recall correctly, if you drafted a lot last year, was a lot of people were a lot more risky because everyone was on the same mindset. We don't know what's going to happen. Anything last year, a wild card team that made it barely over the Buffalo Sabres. Keep that in mind. Over the Buffalo Sabres, Florida Panthers barely squeaked in over a team that is allergic to the playoffs. Just what made it to the Stanley Cup final. People were drafting everybody. I mean, it was a fun time out there. You get into a draft lobby and no one's jumping over themselves to draft and just ruin your stacks for no good reason. Like, it was a little more fun. This year, people are just going to look at what happened last year and go right back to this chalk, which we'll get into one of my 5 hypotheses. But the first one I'm going to talk about is that I think drafting early is not good. I haven't drafted yet. I don't think I'm going to be drafting more than a small handful of teams before we get a lot more finalized on what the playoff picture looks like, but we haven't even gone through the trade deadline yet. We really don't know if there's going to be shakeups. Injuries also, we already have some from the 4 nations. There could be more that come into play. And I really don't know what you're getting out of drafting early that makes it worth adding all of that extra risk. Again, risk number 1, injuries and traded players. Of course, really good teams probably won't be trading any of their good players, but they'll be acquiring players that could take the spot of a valuable asset in some capacity, meaning that you could be drafting a player that has a very low likelihood of actually getting there. I just don't really see a need to go out of my way to draft right now when there's that ambiguity, injury ambiguity, and lastly, the matchup ambiguity. Nothing is truly finalized yet. Let me pull this up. You can see it. So going to moneypuck.com, we don't really need to focus on winning the cup, but making the playoffs is one category that obviously, we'll use the math for. Let's see what that looks like. We have a few teams that are basically mortal locks. I would say anybody above the Devils feels like a mortal lock. So there's not that many teams that we're worried about making the playoffs at all, which might lead you to think, well, let's just get drafting then. But the actual positioning we see at the end here is why it's like, we don't know where these teams are going to be, which is going to dramatically change the shape of what you're drafting. So let's just look at a very basic example of like the Devils, where they could be in 3rd in their division or one of the wild card spots or 2nd. Like, that's a pretty big change. So let's say they finish, let's say whatever. We'll just use them as an example. We'll say that maybe it's a little bit closer than it is. But going from wild card 1 and playing against the number 1 team in whatever division, which most likely that's going to be the Central at this point, or not the Central, the Metro at this point. So they would stay in division. But that change is going to really dictate what goes down the line. All right, this is actually a bad example. So let's look. Winnipeg would be in the Central. What is another wild card team? Who's in wild card 1? Wild card 1. Minnesota is in the Central. No, I mean, Colorado's in the Central. Let's just, I don't know. It's basically the thing I'm trying to get to, and I'm trying to find an example, but it doesn't matter, is that teams can flop. Like Vegas is in the Pacific, but they flipped into the Central, meaning that their entire path changed entirely going forward. So if you would have drafted them early, thinking like, oh, they could finish third over, the LA Kings, it completely changed the trajectory of where they would be going and what your draft would look like to optimize it. You should be trying to optimize for conference finals. If your players don't make the conference finals, you're not winning any money anyways. Like I said, making the finals gets you from $10 to 100. I mean, if you're in it to try to get one team to 10x, fair enough. If you're in it like me to draft 150 teams to try to win $10,000, it's a different story. And you want to get as many teams with the most expected value as possible. The most expected value as possible is that all 4 teams that you're drafting, and again, we're going to get into other strategies, which I'm going to talk about, at least having an outcome where you can fully roster a team in the finals, but have as many players in the conference finals as possible is the only way to success. You're not going to get there any other way other than that. So if you take a team that ends up flopping, like this did happen last year, where Vegas and LA were fighting for the same third spot, the flop happened. LA is now playing Edmonton, meaning that LA is down here on this side of the bracket and Vegas is up here. Well, if you drafted early with the notion that Vegas would be, the whole thing gets topsy-turvy. Now you might be having 2 stacks in the first round. And again, go to moneypuck.com, Money Puck predictions. You can click around stuff, look at the standings, look at the playoff odds. They're right under me right now. You can see like where these teams, like nothing is really set in stone other than, teams making the playoffs and some, teams kind of starting to run away, like Washington with winning their division. Other than that, nothing above like 60%, 70% here. It's just like, okay, like you want to start drafting. What are you getting when you're right? Right. I mean, what do you win when you're right? Is my argument against it. Nothing. I don't know what you're winning. ADP is going to fluctuate over time, but it's not going to dramatically change over this, but it should dramatically impact what your final payouts will be. I think the risk and reward is just not there. I'm going to wait to draft most of my teams until things are at least much more solidified than they are now in the standings. And definitely after the trade deadline, if there's any last second injuries, it is what it is. So, and I think this will be overall a pretty fair assessment from the past. So Matt's going to check all this. When were teams drafted? I think more teams drafted later will have more success over time at advancing and making the finals, and winning is kind of a bit luck-based in general. My next one is going to be that overstacking teams. One team in particular is a better strategy than people give it credit for. Let's just, look at the standings here. I think Colorado is probably an easy one to kind of look at as an example, because without Rantanen, it kind of makes it feel a little bit easier to potentially build a bit of a good stack there. I haven't drafted a team yet, so we're going to get into a couple of these. Maybe they're not a great example, but let's just say you do find a way to get McKinnon and Makar. I think you try to ride that team as hard as possible on Colorado. Do not worry about your Western Conference final matchup almost at all. Like, have some purview on it, right? I mean, let's just look at this quickly again. They could really finish anywhere. So if you're drafting now, stupid, right? But let's just say they finish third in their division and they face off against second in their division, which is Am I blind? Vegas? No. One. Who the heck is? Oh, wait. Who's second? Why is it Dallas? Oh my God, they're right there. Jesus Christ. Let's say they face off against Dallas. Let's just keep that in mind for now, just pretending that this is going to come to fruition. Like, of course, avoid Dallas in this scenario. Once you get down the line more, probably look to the other side at a Pacific team. Edmonton's probably going to be tough to get, but I think you could probably get a good piece of LA, potentially the Vegas and stuff. Like, you could get a couple of guys later on, but you might actually be able to get away with drafting only Colorado and then focusing fully on the Eastern Conference and spreading the wealth as much as you can. The reason is because we haven't seen it much lately, but 2 years ago, we had a situation where Vegas almost swept Florida. It only went to 5 games, I believe. Maybe it was 6, but again, there was a real chance that a Vegas onslaught could have completely won the whole thing without any Florida player involvement. That, of course, isn't the only out you need, but the chances the team wins in under 6, just kind of like using your brain, like 6 or less, it isn't that bad, meaning that you'll have the goalie more than likely that wins it. And if you spread the wealth far enough in the East, maybe not get too carried away, you can try to solidify at least one piece to kind of come in the other side. Last year, looking at kind of the optimal finals outcomes, of course, they were onslaughts on both sides, right? I mean, they were onslaught, Florida and Edmonton, which is really, really tough to move on when you're talking about the depth pieces that aren't going to score much on a round-to-round basis, or at least as much as you need them to continue to advance. So with chalkier teams, of course, it's going to be difficult anyways, but I think that spreading the wealth of the other side is going to give you more potential opportunity to continue to advance a team that can kind of get on the back of a few top-tier players that can score big enough points to, even if they don't continue onward, you keep a team that can fully roster a final. So having a team that has a center, a winger, a defenseman, a goalie, a flex, at least 5, but maybe even a 6th of one team is an option that I think could be explored with at least some teams that people aren't doing right now. Number 3 is abandoning ship as early as possible and not chasing depth when the opportunity doesn't arise. So the exact opposite situation that I'm saying of, I mean, Edmonton's going to be easy, but we'll just stick with Colorado. You take Nathan McKinnon and someone at the turn takes Cale Makar and Valeri Nichushkin, for example, and you say, well, no one really at Colorado's there at ADP right now. Let's see what happens. Well, now that person takes Drouin, they take Blackwood. Do not go out of your way now to draft Devin Taves. Do not go out. Just take the one player on Colorado and use this as an opportunity to draft a team that could have won 2 years ago and that could win this year. Like, draft a team that has Washington, a team that people just aren't drafting. Like, Ovechkin's going in the 30s, I was told. You don't need to go crazy on them either because they're pretty well concentrated. You take Logan Thompson, John Carlson, or Jacob Chikrin, or maybe even both, Alex Ovechkin and Dylan Strome. You have a very good stack on one side. You have a Colorado piece that could score, and then you just build a Western Conference on the other side of the coin. There's plenty of options to do so. So I really do think that if you tether yourself to your first pick at all, you're making a mistake if it's not there. Of course, if these players come back to you and you want to build that team, that makes perfect sense. But as soon as you realize that you're in a draft with someone that, for whatever stupid fucking reason, thinks that they can win with Colorado without McKinnon, just let them have it. They're donating money to everybody, and you can build a better team that has a much better result of winning 10K than they'll ever dream of. So I think that do not tether yourself. It's totally fine to take a Connor McDavid or a Nathan McKinnon and have 0 players with them if everybody decides that that's the team they're drafting, because people will just take a team and then just go with it. Like, it's a terrible strategy. Do not go and do any draft saying, this draft, I'm drafting these 2 teams, these 4 teams. You have to take what's given to you. And that it just has to be universally thought throughout. And I think that goes for every single playoff best ball format. Never go in with a preconceived notion. I mean, if you're drafting one team, do whatever you want, I suppose, have at it. But if you're actually trying to use as much as you can to your advantage and win $10,000, I think you're doing a massive disservice by continuously chasing with bad depth players. So yeah, this 4th one kind of encapsulates all of like these in a sense. So it's better to draft an elite talented player than to try to get a player that correlates in a potential Western Conference final. And what I mean by that is, if you see that you have a player, again, avoid the first round, but if you see a player that might play you in the second round that's slipping down the board, that might play one of your stacks, but they're clear cut, infinitely better than, let's say, a chalkier team, I mean, in Edmonton, for an example, let's keep using them. They're going to be pretty well gobbled up, but you realize that your, Dallas Stars team that you built wouldn't play Edmonton until the conference finals. So you take Darnell Nurse. Like, I think that is an infinitely worse strategy than saying, you know what, Dallas can't play, this is used last year. They can't play Winnipeg in the first round. That's, already a done deal because they're the 1 and the 2. And Kyle Connor's on the board. Like, I know that Kyle Connor can only play for 2 rounds, but 2 rounds might be all he needs to do to get to the Western Conference Finals. The player pool is going to shrink and shrink, and it's like the idea that you're going to get X number of teams to the Western Conference Final with full entire rosters that can play is a fool's errand. Like, you're much better off trying to say, okay, I have this team that has these outcomes that work. How do I get them to the Western Conference Finals, right? How do I get them to have a chance to go to the finals? I would say, do not focus on, okay, like, I got to look the other way. I got to go over here. I have to pick Vancouver, Nashville, Edmonton, or LA. There's no other. And this is one of the big mistakes I made last year, is saying, oh man, these teams are a bit picked clean, but crap, I guess I'm taking Roman Josi. Oh, okay. So you took a player that could have correlated. I mean, this is actually kind of a bad example. Let's go back to a team like Vancouver, right? That, like, let's just say, so because people were drafting them. I'm going to take, Jake DeBrusk in this year's example, right? Like, taking a Jake DeBrusk because he could correlate would have gotten you the same distance as a player on, Colorado. Obviously, it's a good team. It would be tougher to draft, but you see what I'm getting at, right? Like, you're oftentimes not getting ahead of the game. You know what? Fine. Let's go back to the example before. Like, if it was Ryan O'Reilly on Nashville that you drafted, he only made it 1 round anyways, right? Like, it didn't matter that you went to the other side and you gave yourself a chance at the Western Conference Finals with a much worse asset. I think that you should be trying to focus on, of course, in a situation where you have a build that can roster a finals team, has some pieces on both sides that maybe could get to a Western Conference final. Don't continue to add to a Western Conference build with bad depth pieces that cannot score in an optimal fashion. Like, maybe when we get drafting, this will make more sense. It's not making sense now. I'm trying my best. That's kind of a deeper one. And then my last one, and I kind of said it before, but I really, really think that people are going to look at what the results that were on the screen right now last year, and people are going to draft way chalkier than they should. The NHL is still an incredibly random sport with a ton of variance, and we see it every single year that there's multiple upsets in the first round, the second round. Cup finals are always, very tough to predict. And just because one year the chalk kind of went to the status quo, the 1, 2, the 1, 2, the 1, the 1, the 2, the only upset was not an upset by anybody. Every single person picked Colorado. That never happens. That might be more an anomaly than having a ton of upsets. So do not tether yourself to what happened last year. People will. Do not. Be brave. Be bold. Let's draft 1 or 2 teams. Oh my God. All right, hold on. I'm going to do it on my phone because Underdog is just like, I don't want to draft a par 3. Can I just draft what I want to draft? Is that possible? Oh my God. Oh my God. Phone. The phone app doesn't want to work either. It's going to work. It's just like, why don't you do a pick'em instead? Why don't you do? I don't want to. Okay. Wait now. Oh, great. So probably completely missed the one that started because people are in here and joined the. So oh, that's funny that I got into one with 0 other people in it. That's classic. Well, I guess while we're waiting, let's look at the board. McDavid, McKinnon, Kyle Connor. Holy shit. Kyle Connor is 3. Did not expect. I haven't even looked at the board yet. I wanted to wait until today. Kyle Connor is the 3. Leon Draisaitl, Sam Reinhart, Austin Matthews, Jack Eichel, Cale Makar, Rantanen, Tkachuk. This is pretty crazy. I am pretty shocked that Winnipeg's getting the amount of love they're getting. I mean, again, we go back to the standings. They're the number 1 team in the NHL. I'm just surprised that people are actually giving them respect. Um, I mean, pretty cool. They're gonna get a good first round matchup more than likely. Look at the wild card too. It's like they're probably gonna get Vancouver. Like I wouldn't be afraid of Vancouver. Man, that's pretty nuts. I am honestly like pretty surprised that it's that early. Getting Leon and McDavid last year could happen this year. We will not be seeing that. Maybe more than a small handful of times if someone drafts McKinnon one or some. I don't even know. But yeah, this isn't too bad. Pretty easy to get what you want. Again, we're seeing teams that are 95% likely to make the playoffs with one of the best goal scorers of our generation going in the second round potentially. Like not too difficult, not too difficult to see a path. I know nobody believes in Toronto because that's what the media has told us. They could never ever actually win, but the numbers would tell you otherwise. They can win. Are they super likely to win the cup? No, but they can. Yeah. Where is New Jersey? I mean, New Jersey feels like a team that just free. Yeah, just free. New Jersey Devils, completely free. Who would have thought? I did not think that would be the case. They'll get Markstrom back. They're still projected on pace to go third. I didn't think that was going to change, but where are my poor Sabres? Dead but not forgotten. Yeah, I mean, there's certainly some question marks. There's some teams that will be fun to track down the line and maybe draft towards the end. But man, this is going to be as we all expected, right? This is waiting on two more, so join in. Definitely want to do one or two of these. Just of course, underdogs like sorry, can't be joining our lobbies right now for no reason. I get shared my location. I tried to make sure it worked, and it just is like, nah, can't locate you. Don't know where you are. Tough break. I don't really, I mean, I don't see anything that's like super stands out here. I just think that this is just better. Like this is better than last year, honestly. I think for the first round and stuff, like feels like you can get in a lane pretty easily here. Just depends on who's in your lobby if you're going to be able to kind of like get things to the finish line or not. But I'm excited to see what we can draft. So I would say optimally. Oh, and by that I shouldn't have closed out of that. NHL standings. I would say a couple things to have up are always have the standings up. I'd probably pull it up in wild card or this playoff format even do. Oh, nothing right now. Almost. But again, it's good to at least see as of now, if you're drafting today, like what could be the matchups or where they're heading. So, Washington in the first round is not going to play Florida. They couldn't play them till the finals, for example. Oh, draft is starting. Wow, the 106. Yeah, you hate to see it. But again, like if you're drafting now, I'd still use what is the projectable outcome to your advantage. Like, you can at least decipher something rather than nothing here. So good to have this up always in the background. I mean, you should try when you can to avoid matchups that are going to happen in the first or second round. But I do think like taking a player whose ceiling is way, way, way higher than another is just not utilized enough in NHL. Like in the NFL, no one has a problem with being like, oh, like I took, a Buccaneer and a Commander because the first game had a total of like 60 points or whatever the heck it was. And everyone's like, kudos, congratulations. That's a smart idea. It's a very smart person. And then, in the NHL space, well, no one talks about it at all. But it felt like last year, the 8 people that did were like, you have to optimize for the conference finals. You couldn't possibly take Kyle Connor when he could be in the second round against a guy, like take a guy in Nashville. And it's like, well, Nashville's not going anywhere either. I mean, I don't know. It just felt to me, is this? Oh my god, I'm legitimately stupid. Okay, it's still not working. Does Underdog just not like me? Is it me? Why isn't the clock working? Whatever. Well, Kyle Connor goes 2, number 1 team in the league. Leon goes 3. There goes Mac Daddy. I am indifferent. You can take Reinhardt. You can take Matthews. I'll probably take the other. Who will he take? He takes Reinhardt. Ain't no problem taking the American heroes. Just ain't no problem. We'll go Vegas and we'll go Toronto. So Vegas is right here in the Pacific, definitely separating, but not to a crazy degree on LA. But right around, they could be 1, obviously, or they could be 2. It feels like that's the likely outcome, meaning that they could very likely play a wild card team. The concern there is that they could play a Colorado, which is, I believe, what would happen right now if the season ended, if they ended up, getting above Edmonton, but would avoid the Kings for sure, because that is, I would say, the most likely outcome is that they play the Kings. Anybody else is probably on the table, but it won't be too difficult to draft Minnesota, Dallas, or the Winnipeg Jets and avoid it. And we'll just kind of see what options exist. On the other side of the coin, teams I'm kind of looking at, they're probably going to play Tampa. It's not set in stone, but that is, I believe, the most likely round 1 matchup at all, other than maybe Carolina and the Devils. I think those are the 2 that are like pretty much all-encompassing, likely to happen. There isn't much of a chance, I think, of them dropping, their game in hand up 6 on Ottawa. That's pretty unlikely. In the same division, of course. Yeah, they're probably holding on. Do they get 3 or? I don't know. They could even jump, but I think we just got to kind of work on what we know right now, and that is the most likely outcome is if they play Tampa. Want to avoid Tampa at all costs, and I'm more than happy to look on the other side of the coin. So as we get deeper, there goes Ovi. What was his ADP? 19. Okay, I was very wrong. I thought someone said he slips into the 30s, but maybe they just said people don't draft him. So Reinhardt the Chuck, I mean, just when it comes right to you, I think you just take it. I don't think you don't check twice. You just take Nylander Marner. You build out that Toronto. Easy peasy. Yeah, not a concern on my end. Just stack Toronto and Vegas. Easy start. Not too hard. Goalies are not going to be hard to get on either side. Decently easy to know, too, with Hill and Woll. I'll just pull them over. Don't mind overstacking these 2 teams either, because like Toronto's path to excellence is probably through an incredibly small number of players. Vegas could be a bit trickier, but Jack Eichel's so intricate that it doesn't matter. I'm not even tethered to Vegas, really. I could abandon ship if I needed to. Like if someone decided they took Aiden Hill and they took Shea Theodore, then I'm not tethered to them. I don't need to take another one of them if I don't want to, but I can. Where I'm really going to be hurting is defense. I might want to look to take a defenseman that has a very high upside on the other side of the equation. Planned on taking Jack Hughes, honestly. That was going to be my plan there, was to take, the other side of the coin, take maybe Hughes and Dougie Hamilton. That's gone now. I really am going to need a defenseman that's going to help. I might just grab Shea here to get something. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I could take Hurdle and Shea. I think I might do that. It's right here. It's right in my hands. And the other part of this, and you might be thinking like I'm ultra screwed now on if I don't get these 2 goalies, but you'd have to be an absolute fucking idiot to take Aiden Hill or Joseph Woll without any fucking guys on their teams. Like, what is your path to winning this tournament with a goalie that is uncorrelated? Nothing. So I'm not that nervous about it. Michael, I will join the next lobby. I'll just join it right now. I want to do 2, and then I'm probably going to get out of here. But the reigning champ is here, and we have to oblige. Got to do it. So I'll do one more draft. I'll do a quick, maybe just a couple minute recap of the 5 Thesai, I believe is the plural now. I've changed it myself. Another thing that I would say is worth taking a look at as well is like, I'm not that nervous about goalie, and I could, instead of taking either of these two goalies, which I might just take one and then not worry about it, is build a little bit on the other side. So again, teams I'd be wanting to target are Washington, Carolina, and the Devils. I wouldn't, yeah, I probably want to avoid the Avalanche. I don't think that's hard to do because they're a chalky team and their top guys are gone anyway. So I'm not taking their depth. On the other side, the Wild, the Stars, and the Jets. So I think I'm going to do here is I'm going to grab Hill and Kaprizov. Kaprizov is the perfect example of a player that I'm going to be overweight on. His ceiling is the best player in the world. He was a guy that people looked at as probably a President's Trophy, probably like a Hart Trophy type of guy. And he's injured, but should be back plenty before the playoffs. They, of course, have faltered, but I'm not worried about them missing the playoffs. They're still up 10 points on missing. And while they could dip into a wild card spot, and that could be a bit risky for me, I'm just going to bet on them staying in this position. Of course, I respect the Dallas Stars more than anybody. That was my preseason pick to win the Stanley Cup, but I'm not betting on them in this specific draft. And again, what you're drafting should be for what you think will happen in this specific window, right? Like, I didn't draft 101, so I'm now not working under the assumption that Connor McDavid is going to be the most valuable player in the playoffs. If I draft 101, now I'm working under the assumption that Connor McDavid is the most valuable player in the playoffs. Like, that's how it works. So every single time you start a draft, you should go into it with, let's see where I draft, let's see what my first pick is, and then start to work off that assumption. But change it quickly. If you take Connor McDavid and the next person takes Draisaitl and Bouchard, and you don't want to try to jump the gun on Hyman or someone else because it's not going to be the build that you think could win, you can abandon ship. But work on the assumption that what you're doing is going to win. And what does it look like if you're right? So if Toronto and Vegas are in the Cup final, what does that look like? I'd like to add a little bit more depth around it with high potential players. Like, Kaprizov's going to be in the playoffs. Kaprizov is a guy that could have had 120 points this year. Like, those are the kind of guys I want to add into my mix. Now, I am a 3-3-1-1. My defense is really weak. I have not picked a single team that has defensemen that are any good. That is concerning. I'd like to have a defenseman that could score fantasy points. So as I round out this draft, I'm absolutely going to be looking more. I got what, 4 more picks? Yeah. So 4 more picks. I think it's worth taking 2 goalies in this build. I don't think you always have to take 2 goalies, but I'm going to. I might wait on it. Hope that no one else takes Wool, but if they do, I can survive it. I'd rather lock in a defenseman. I'm going to grab Chychrun over John Carlson. I'm going to do that because I got to get something. He fits the other side of the coin. He's part of what could be a good build. I'm not going to worry about the fact that I don't have Ovi. I'm just going to take Chychrun right now, and I'm going to grab Morgan Riley. Hope he can get back to form. Maybe 3D is a bit of a going too far, but this isn't great, and I really need to get some points here when I have Matthews and Eichel that are almost, if I'm correct, going to score a center position and a flex, leaving me one more flex for Hurdle, Nylander, Marner, Kaprizov, hopefully for a couple of rounds, if not 3, to score, 1 and 1. On the other hand, I don't feel very good here. So that I'm probably not going to do a ton of this. This is one thing I really want to look into is how many defensemen is correct. Is it worth trying to chase D points at all, really? This may be a mistake, but I'm just going to give this a go here first and see how it comes out. Now, with my other last pick, I could go a bunch of different ways here. I think I'm just going to take Tavares because why not? I don't really see why I wouldn't. Let's take it. It's him or Dorofeyev probably. Nah, it's Mark Stone. Let's take Mark Stone. Let me see. Other draft start? No. So yeah, other draft needs 3 if you want to jump over there. Take a look at this team. Yeah, Mark Stone over Dorofeyev. With Eichel. Just we know what his ceiling is in a single game. He has 2 of those games in a series, and he's going to be ultra valuable. I think that's correct. So we built a very, very strong Vegas Toronto team. I filled in a couple pieces on the side that I think are much higher potential to help this team move on than a John Tavares would have been, than a Dorofeyev, right? I could have taken Dorofeyev and John Tavares or Pietrangelo or whoever you want to say here, and you'd be like, oh, why not just build up 2 teams? Like, you think that's going to be the cup final. Well, this team's got to make the final, and I think that you want to give yourself a bit more high, high ceiling types of guys. So let's look and go here and pull up the full thing. And I'm just going to look, waiting on 3 in the next draft, and I'll pull that up afterwards. So we'll go through each team very briefly, and I'll just kind of rate them. First guy, I kind of think was auto drafting at first, maybe not, but McDavid, Leon and Bouchard and Hyman all went. Again, this is a good example of abandoning ship. Like I said, I would have done the same. Guy takes, Leon and Bouchard. I probably would have gone high upside on the other side too. Let Hyman go. I don't hate this team, of course, either. We're going to get to it, but I think this is totally fine. Mikko, Kucherov. So kind of built a Carolina, Tampa onslaught. I guess what I would disagree with is this Nurse pick. Like, Edmonton is gone. Nurse is not getting them back in the mix for you. I wouldn't have gone to Dallas either, because Dallas is gone. Like, your team just isn't winning with Ottinger, Granlund, and Matt Duchene and Harley. Like, it's just not enough. This is a guy that, this is kind of a team that I wouldn't build ever. Like, be brave, be bold. Don't just, take Minnesota. They're 2 points in the standings lower than Dallas. Take Minnesota. Can they beat him in a 7-game series? Like, ask yourself that question. Is it literally possible? Is it more than 35, 40% possible that Minnesota beats Dallas? Okay, take the best players on Minnesota over the lower, options on Dallas. And I know these are good players. Like, Dallas is tough to draft because they're so deep. But yeah, I just disagree with that in general. Wouldn't have done it. I would have taken Minnesota. They're free right now. Take them. I don't get why they're free. Let's go back. I would have, honestly, like, one of my teams a couple of years ago that was my best team was a Rangers Florida Panthers onslaught. It just didn't have Vegas. It had, I think, 1 or 2 players on different Western Conference teams. Like, I don't remember what they were, but that's a viable strategy. Like, if you have a team that can fill, as long as it can fill, right? It may have been 1 short. Like, I don't think that's the best way of building entirely, but you can build a very cool team that is a Eastern Conference or Western Conference final onslaught that has just a couple guys on the other side. That is totally fine as well. So don't force yourself to jump ship too early. Vasilevsky could be your only goalie, and you could take a ton of Tampa and a ton of Carolina, and then just fill in a couple pieces down the line with the best potential players on the other side. And it could be any team now. You have a full onslaught. Team number 2, Winnipeg, right down the gut. Did take some Carolina, may have kind of forced his hand away from Carolina with the Aho pick, but is what it is. Grab Tampa. Tampa's free, other than Kucherov. So yeah, this team makes sense. No red flags on my end. Just built a pretty standard, Winnipeg versus Carolina Tampa situation. And I think Hellebuck, 1 goalie, makes perfect sense, right? Winnipeg gets there. Hellebuck is, of course, going to be ultra valuable. The Edmonton Donkeys are heeing and hawing. Grabbed the Jack Hughes, who I think is probably one of the better values overall. If they are able to escape the first round, which will be tough, and it will be tough for him to score a lot of points against Carolina, but if they do it, he'll have a big role in that. So that makes perfect sense to me as well. Yeah. Probably would have, like, again, Andre Palat's just, if Andre Palat scores in this roster, you lose. Like, you're never winning if Palat scores. Just unnecessary. Like, you built a full-on Edmonton versus Detroit final. you have every possible piece. If Jeff Skinner or Andre Palat score on this team, you're not winning. They're not like it doesn't work. The math isn't going to math. Draft really good players here instead. Draft the best player that's playing in the playoffs here instead, because New Jersey's going to have a tough round one matchup. They have to get out of there somehow. I wouldn't. That's the change I'd make. Draft the best remaining 2 players. Michael says I'm wrong. Well, I think I'm right. Andre Palat is going to have 8 shots if they play a full Stanley Cup winning show, and he's never going to score over anyone else in this roster. I guess the only way you could look at it is if Edmonton doesn't make the finals and like all of your draft capital just went to absolute ass. And I just don't, again, I don't see it. I think that you should take no one as bad as Andre Palat. Wasn't it Sam Bennett? Am I wrong? I think it was Sam Bennett. And he's like not terrible. Like he shoots the puck. Like Sam Bennett can score in the finals because he actually shoots the puck. Like Andre Palat never shoots. Well, like I'm not saying you can't take a depth player in your mix, like a Sam Bennett, but it's not Cirelli and it's not Palat. Frankly, is it Mark Stone? But I have to give Mark Stone's legitimately good at hockey. I get the premise. I don't think that that's the right guy. Evan Rodriguez. Yeah, but he shoots the puck. They have to shoot the puck. Like Dorofeyev shoots the puck. Like you can take Dorofeyev. They have like Jeff Skinner just isn't going to play, and Andre Palat isn't going to shoot. That's all I'm trying to say. It's more of a player profile thing there than just generally. But like, there's nobody left on the Devils at this point. Like they're picked completely clean. There is no one left. You don't need to. Yeah, no, but he's on the first line, but he doesn't do anything. I mean, this again, me and Matt we're gonna do a show together, and then I'm not gonna be here in the void saying that I'm right. Matt can tell me I'm wrong. Jeff Skinner doesn't play, and Andre Palat doesn't do anything. I'm not even gonna say like he literally couldn't pop, but like the guy is not a fantasy guy. He doesn't hit. Does he do anything? No. Let's just keep moving. We're waiting on one more person. Could one person join the next lobby so we could do the next draft? But yeah, next team, standard McKinnon, Bakar. I'm sure this is going to be an incredibly popular duo. Yeah, if you get McKinnon and you don't get Bakar, I would punch a hole in the wall because you should be sad because someone screwed you and they're mean and they shouldn't do that and they're nasty. They're nasty people. Ovechkin, Nachos. So Colorado, of course, makes sense. Keep building. God, if some asshole didn't steal Chikrin from, you took John Carlson before. No, you were fine. You were good. So yeah, just a Colorado versus Washington team. And then, yeah, I like this way more. Take high upside pieces. Now, Elias Pettersson is awful. My problem is I'm going to be drafting him too, because I know what he can do in the right circumstance. The guy is a complete shell of himself. It makes me so mad. Remember, he was like 24 and he had 103 points or something, absolutely obscene. But I'd much rather take fucking Quinn Hughes down the line than fucking Jeff Skinner. Like, I feel like we're going a little too galaxy brain. Like we're going too far off the reservation because we can, because it's like, oh, this fits nice and evenly and neat, and like not actually using our brains and being like, what is going to get me to a chance to win $10,000? I'm taking the Quinn Hugheses of the world, the Elias Petterssons, to be completely honest, even though I hate myself for saying it. I think Kempe will be there a lot. I think Kaprizov will still be around these rounds. You know, there's high upside players. And then as the drafts go, I mean, as time goes on, you're going to add Brady the Truck into the mix, probably. You're going to add Dylan Larkin into the mix once we know these teams are in the playoffs. And right now, we cannot say that with any level of certainty. There's a very big cluster of teams that could make these final 2 spots. So we just cannot, I don't think you could draft them, but as time goes on, more players are going to join the player pool, which is going to help, I think, again, even more so waiting, because you wait, you have more options to pick from. more people have more options to pick from, so they won't try to jump and take your guys. I really just don't see any benefit to drafting right now. I really don't. I feel bad saying it because I want the lobbies to be good and fun and people to be drafting, but like I'm always just going to say exactly how I feel, and that's just how I feel. I feel like you are always going to be benefiting from drafting later. As we still wait for one more fucking person, can anybody have the balls to put $10 on the line and draft a team for 15 minutes? Thank you. Final two teams, Hunley in the chat. No, you were good. You were fine. Let's just read this quickly too. My general rule is if I wouldn't take them in a daily draft, I shouldn't draft them here. I agree with that 100%. I agree with that for sure. Like, yeah, like there's, and again, like if you're going to try to get something to your advantage in these drafts, it probably should be drafting a Brady Tkachuk. Like actually putting your balls on the table in the final pick and taking a guy that could score a ton of fucking points. That is not going to be free at the end. Like that's the guy you should probably take. It's just uncomfortable. Draft's about to start. Hunley, you drafted a great team. I already looked at it. I mean, it's a Florida Dallas just behemoth, and then you actually drafted high upside players in Kempe. I'll forgive you on Kopitar, but you needed a goalie. You had to probably you didn't even need a goalie in my opinion. You got the chalk. I mean, like he's not going anywhere. You got the Florida Panthers guy. I don't even know if you had to take another goalie here, but I don't really. I'm not mad at it. Like you could have taken Sam Bennett, honestly. Okay, my team. We saw my team. My team is my team. It rocks. It's perfect. It's an angel sent from heaven. I am. Oh, it hasn't started yet. Oh my god, why can't I see? Okay, 101 from the 6 to the 1. It's going to be a shocking rev. Oh, it is started. What? No, it hasn't. This clock is broken. It says we're okay. My phone says it starts in 8 seconds. This says that I already missed my first pick. Okay, I'm taking Connor McDavid 101. I'm going to do that every time. Call me crazy. And Draisaitl goes too. Well, I'm going to go fuck myself. You just got to get into like 3 of 150 lobbies where you can get McDavid with good players on Edmonton. That's all you got to do. Then you got 3 fun Edmonton teams that are unique because they're just never going to get to you. So yeah, this is a red badge brigade. Hate to see it for myself, but honestly, people will at least be smarter. Like it's not even a bad thing. Let's see the chat really quick. So, sorry, I told myself, is it the Kings win low scoring games? King can escape high volume shot against West Coast. Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, I get I'm again taking the Kings. I think is definitely going to be an underutilized thing in general, especially high upside players like Fiala, etc. But like, I probably wouldn't have taken. I probably was taking Fiala, honestly. Like, I'd be like Kemper's fine. I mean, again, if they're winning games and they win in the first round, like he's going to be valuable. But like how much more valuable than Bobrovsky, right? They can only get 4 wins in a round, either of them. The saves, the Kings don't give up a ton of shots. Yada yada. All right, let's see Bouchard go. Let's just see it. I want to see it. There he goes. Now I've seen it. I've visualized it. It's already hurt me. I don't need to let it hurt me because it already did. I am gonna take Kucherov because it's the key to Kucherov. Don't know if I have to say anything else. You know, I'm gonna take Hyman and I'm gonna see what happens from there. That's what I'm gonna do. I don't love it, but I don't hate it. And if I draft 0 more Oilers, I'm fine. But I'm at least gonna see what happens. Because I like this idea here. So teams I'm avoiding are probably just I don't even know. I mean, hard to say who they're going to play in the first round. They play the Kings every year. That could obviously happen. I mean, more than likely they're going to play Colorado right now. That's not fun. But we'll see. I'm just going to move over some players from the teams that I'm drafting to have them here. not certain that Skinner's going to get back to me, and if he doesn't, that's okay. Plenty of teams on the other side of the coin to build off of. Let's just see what Count MC does. He's watching me draft, so he knows I queued up Skinner. So if he takes Skinner, I don't get him, and that's fine. I don't really care if I just have two Edmonton guys. I just think that it's fine to say McDavid and alone. It's fine to say McDavid and Hyman. It's your choice. You want Stuart Skinner or not? This is your big chance. He takes him. That's fine. We take Vasi and Point. Again, Tampa likely to play Toronto in the first round. They could play Florida or whatever, but like they're probably going to play Toronto in the first round. Toronto makes it out of the first round once every 5 years or so. They've done that, I believe, more recently than 5 years ago. We'll tell ourselves the story that Tampa gets there on the backs of the boys one more time. Have the other side of the East pretty much wide open. Could just build the Eastern Conference onslaught. McDavid absolutely carries his team to the finals, and they lose again, and they lose to a Tampa or blank team. Sure, that's a story, right? Have Dallas, which is probably getting picked over pretty good, but we'll see. Gotta be, right? Hurdle, Aho. Jack Hughes went 16 this time. Okay, so New Jersey's gone. See them later. For Hagee. Oh, boy. Sadly, I think we're going to have to be doing it again. 1, 2. Yeah, we could probably use a little bit more. So, yeah. Call me crazy, but do I think that McDavid, Kucherov, and Kaprizov could be fine? That could be okay. Could work out in my favor. That doesn't make me feel bad that I have McDavid, Kucherov, and Kaprizov on this team. Do I have a single defenseman yet? No. Is that bad? Yes. Can I fix it? Maybe. But it's, how to fix it now, right? Is the question. We're going to queue Victor Hedman up. Not a surprise probably to anybody sitting there at home thinking, how is he going to get defensemen? Well, Victor Hedman's still there. I guess if someone screws me on Victor Hedman, then I'm going to have to really piece something together here. But Minnesota doesn't have really any useful defensemen. Like, I guess if you hate yourself enough to draft Brock Faber, you could hate yourself enough to draft Brock Faber. I don't think I do that yet. I don't think I'm quite to that level. Bit of a tough noodle. But so the cards were dealt. The cards that we've been dealt are I have some ideas though. I have ideas. I you'll see. I'm up in 5 picks. I'm not going to give anything away. I think anybody with a literal brain in their head is seeing that I'm probably taking Victor Hedman. If you're in the stream or not, you're probably sitting there like, that guy's taking Victor Hedman. So what the hell does this guy have? What does he do? Where are you going with this? Sam Bennett? Okay. Yeah. Right? I mean, you have 0 Florida. Yeah, Sam Bennett. Okay. We'll do a quick recap. What does this guy have? Barkov, Reinhart, Tkachuk, Ovi, Verhaeghe. Okay. Well, can't get Sam Bennett anymore. Hate to break it to that guy because someone decided to take uncorrelated Sam Bennett in the 8th round. A gold star to them. It's a fun team you're getting here, though, Count MC. Going for back-to-backs, Carolina, Edmonton. Just handing it to you on a silver platter. Svechnikov goes. I guess if no one's going to take Quinn Hughes, I'll take him. Right? I know Vancouver's a risk, but these are risks you got to take. They get into playoffs. They're playing Winnipeg in the first round. I don't got fucking Winnipeg. So Vancouver wins the round one. All of a sudden, they're on the other side of the coin playing Minnesota because that's the logical thing that's going to happen in this scenario. And no one thinks it's going to happen, of course, barely even me. But let's say it does. All of a sudden, you're sitting there with Edmonton versus Vancouver in the conference final with Quinn Hughes, McDavid, and then just an onslaught of Tampa. I mean, this is a weird team, but why not? Why not me? Why not now? Why not draft McDavid, Point, Kucherov, Hyman, Hagel, Kaprizov, Hedman, and Quinn Hughes, and just have 100,000 points in round one? I don't see anything against it. No one can stop me from doing it. I've built a bit of a Tampa onslaught, and I've built a bunch of teams that won't play in the first round on the other side and can't all play in the second round if they all were to win, and could definitely fit two vacuums of a third round where either Minnesota or Vancouver play Edmonton, and then I get to the finals with McDavid, Hyman, Kucherov, Point, Hagel, Hedman, blah, 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 and then Tampa wins in 5. I mean, again, you're just kind of looking at the scenario and what it looks like and just, okay, cool, great. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to draft another player. I'm considering Gustafsson. I'm not going to do it right now. Oh, no, I don't want to talk. Okay. Yeesh. So 2 centers. I could really take anything right here, but I'm just going to take Gensel. I've kind of already made my claim of Tampa's the team. I might as well take the last piece of the puzzle there. And probably just boldly. Yeah. Yeah, it's fine. Honestly, I know it's a million wingers. That's a bit stupid, but I have McDavid. McDavid has to make it to the conference finals for this team to do anything. Maybe taking 2 wingers there was a mistake. I didn't. Probably should have spread the wealth a little bit more with one other position. Eriksson Ek or something. Yeah, maybe I should have taken Eriksson Ek there. But I think I'm going to grab Gustafsson and finish with this really weird team. Entirely predicant on Tampa making the finals. Honestly, I'm pretty much set on Tampa winning it, so I might as well just keep. Vasilevsky's going to play every game in the playoffs. I don't need another. I think I take a defenseman or a center here. There's just no fucking guy Connor Clifton. Okay, there's no one on Tampa. I feel like I'd rather jab a needle through my ocular lens and draft Darnell Nurse. I'm at least going to queue both of these while I think or I take a center. I take Eriksson Ek. I think I take Eriksson Ek, honestly. I just try to score a bazillion points and Hedman gets there and is in the finals and I don't know. I think Boldy was a mistake though. I think I probably would have wanted this to be Eriksson Ek and then this to be another defenseman. Spread the wealth. I know I had McDavid, and that's kind of what got me to think I was okay. Yeah, this is close. I was close here. I think I just made one mistake that kind of cost me this team being the best possible outcome of itself. But I'll take Joel Eriksson Ek. Basically a Minnesota versus Edmonton conference final situation that ends with playing Tampa. Completely one-sided on the East. Sure. There's no problem with that. Again, it doesn't feel comfortable maybe, but it's okay to get comfortable being uncomfortable, and I think you're in a better spot in these drafts. Take a quick review. Yeah, already an hour now. How do I do this? How do I just talk for an hour? Real loser mentality. My team, again, I'll just read it off. McDavid, with Hyman only on Edmonton. Tampa, I went with Kucherov, Point, Hagel, Vasilevsky, Hedman, and Jake Gensel, just all out Tampa on the eastern side. And on the west, to go against Edmonton, I have Kaprizov, Quinn Hughes, Matt Boldy, and Joel Eriksson Ek, sort of a hodgepodge of guys that could realistically wouldn't play Edmonton until the conference finals, and at which point they all bow out, and I'm hoping for a finals of Edmonton versus Tampa, where Tampa kind of wins it swiftly. Even if the outcome doesn't work out exactly as I'm drawing it up for my best case scenario, I'm looking at a scenario of hopefully Quinn Hughes scoring a million points in the first round, Minnesota at least winning one round, and then, you know, the rest kind of following the way I want to go. Number two, kind of an overcount MC's team. Okay, Matt. Yeah, I know I talk a lot in general. I guess it's more of like I plan on doing like 40 minutes and it's an hour and 10 minutes by myself. You know, I talk to other people. Talking by myself, I mean, that's loser stuff. Uh, so count MC or, you know, Michael here, the winner last year, who talked about Evan Rodriguez being good. Leon Draisaitl, Bouchard, Stuart Skinner, Nugent Hopkins. Sure, makes sense to me. Built that against a Mikko Rantanen, or yeah, the finals team that would go against Edmonton against Carolina with Rantanen, Aho, Jarvis, Svechnikov. Then added Freddie Anderson, which fair enough, I suppose. And then grabbed some Toronto pieces to go on the other side of his Eastern Conference Finals with Tavares, Nice, and Stolars. I'm more of a Wool guy myself, but Stolars should be back and was really good before. Caliber Colt went Reinhardt, the Chuck, Barkov right down the line, included Bobrovsky, Verhaeghe, and Ekblad. I was going to say, I think I had one more Ekblad in that mix. Went for a Eastern Conference Finals against Washington, which does make sense. They're both the top of the division, with Ovi, Logan Thompson, Tom Wilson, John Carlson, Dylan Strome, and added, I believe, only one guy in the Western Conference, which was Gabriel Velarde. I get it. I think I personally would have taken a higher upside player than Gabriel Velarde, but I do love the guy. I said he scored 30 goals this year, and he might. So honestly, maybe he was one of the better upside players left. Hunley here went McKinnon, McCarr, Jack Hughes, Marty Nachos. So this is exactly what you built fucking last draft. Like, am I losing my mind? Is this your exact same team off the start? Just you took Nachos before Hughes. I don't even know. Blackwood, Bratt, Hamilton, Kempe, Lehkonen, Fiala, Hischier, Timo. And did you also take LA? But this time you took Fiala? It was the same team, except you did the one fix I suggested. That was someone else. Yeah, this is the same team in the last draft, except you fixed it. How did this happen? This is the same. You just fixed the team from last draft. Congratulations, a gold star. I mean, maybe you could have taken New Jersey goaltender. That's the only change. Maybe not even. Did someone take it? No. I probably would have taken Markstrom, I guess. I think I just don't have the nerve. I think I would have taken Markstrom because I'm a gutless coward. But yeah. Final two, and then yeah, I'm going to cut out of here for now, but got a couple things to do before bed. This is similar to my team, just didn't take Eichel. They went Matthews. Well, I guess also Kyle Connor, who went second last draft, went sixth this time. We'll get to, but Matthews, Robertson, Nylander, Ottinger, Marner, Johnston, Wool, Miro, Hintz, and then actually had the gumption, the nerve, and the gall to go Ottawa. Like I said, I think that's actually probably what you're trying to accomplish in these early drafts, is being bold and taking players that no one else is going to take early on at all, basically. Again, I still don't even think it's worth it, like, to draft right now at all. Like, if you're going to, though, you might as well say, well, Brady's going to, once he's 100% in, people are going to be drafting him in like the 9th round. So you get Brady, Sanders, and Stutzel because you actually have the balls to do it. Final team, Connor, Eichel, Scheifele. That works, right? Yeah, that works. Hellebuck, Morrissey, Hurdle, Sam Bennett. This team was so good. And then it's just like, you don't have to take fucking Florida. You just don't. Like, I know they're good, but there's other teams in the East Like, have balls. Take Ottawa. Fuck it. That's the problem in the East right now is like you feel like you got to take something, and there's only like 6 options because no one's drafting the bottom 2. Yeah, I don't know. But Sam Bennett and Gustav Forsling didn't even take Ekblad when he was there. It was close. I mean, you had it, and then you just, I don't know, just build a Western Conference Finals team and then throw in Brady the Chuck and Sanderson or something. I don't know. I'll have to think about that. That's an interesting scenario that they ran into where I don't even know. You probably just don't take Morrissey here and you grab something. But yeah, next draft's about to fill, as people are telling you right now. I got to do some shit, but I might draft one more team tonight just because it's an addiction, even though I'm saying like it's a bad idea. But yeah, Panarin and Igor. I mean, yeah, like why not, right? Like if the Rangers make the playoffs, those guys are going to get drafted like 100% of the time later on. Yeah, I have to look at these teams. I'm not going to include the Islanders. Rangers, Jesus Christ. Yeah, Rangers, Boston. Just don't draft right now. You know what? Just wait. Just wait. Wait a month. Everything will be figured out. It's cold. I know there's something to do. Just wait a month. But all right. I'm gonna get out of here for now. Get back to you guys next week. Maybe Saturday. I haven't really talked to Matt yet. I don't know what I'm doing. But enjoy the Four Nations face-off tomorrow. Obviously, go USA. Blah blah blah. If you're in Canada, enjoy the game, and I'm sure you want Canada to win as well. It's going to be awesome. I cannot wait to watch tomorrow. Just other than that, from Doug, Matt, and myself, have a wonderful time. Go USA, Michael. Nice try again, but let's not be crazy. And we will talk to you at the latest next week.